Hey everybody, this is Aeroica. Thanks so much for stopping by for another video. This episode is going to focus on the magical tank Alexandros, and this comes at the request of Ryan Singer, one of my subscribers, who recently unlocked him and asked for a character analysis on him so we could determine how he was going to implement him, if at all, into his hero rotation. Ryan, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. Here's the video you asked for. My particular Alexandros is going to be a 5-star. So when we deal with any of the numbers here, keep that in mind. He is also at level 60, which is the current maximum level. So their numbers may differ a little bit from what you have, but it will give you a general idea. So Alexandros is a magical armored tank. And when you go to look for his tokens, you will only find them in the heroic or great summon area. There are no dungeons which carry his tokens, so he may be a little bit difficult for you to get. The only other possibility is that he might be included in a package of tokens to buy from the shop, but other than that, it is going to be the random luck of you spending gems or gold in the heroic or great summons, respectively. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of his stats. Before we begin, we'll take a look at his numerical statistics, and later on we are going to come back and talk a little bit about his attack, and we're going to talk about his defense and how that makes him an effective tank or possibly a disadvantaged tank when we compare him to other tanks that are available in the game. So at the top here, when it comes to his element, he is a light hero, which means he receives both a 30% advantage and disadvantage with darker units. So he does 30% more damage to dark units, but he also receives 30% more damage when he is attacked by them. So you will need to use him appropriately and also take some caution when you're entering into a dungeon that carries a lot of dark enemies. He's going to take a brunt of it, especially if you're thinking about using him as a tank. Which of course you probably would, but keep that in mind if you're going to be taunting with him. He's going to take a hit for sure. So when we look at his first trait here, this is going to be magical. He will take less damage from non-physical attacks, which covers the magical part of it, right? But when we look over at the armored part of it, he also takes less damage from physical attacks. This is the only tank I could find that had both, taking less damage from magical and less damage from physical. So there's some trade-offs that may be there, and I may have missed something, but that's the only one of the ones that I had researched in accordance with him that carries both of those. So that's kind of a nice trait to have there. And the last one is going to be Shocking Grasp, which is a chance to shock on any crit. And if we quickly scroll down and look at his crit chance, he's at 19%, fairly sizable, which means you have a chance to proc that at a decent rate. I've seen it in the rolls that I've done with going through some of the dungeons. That seemed to pop up pretty frequently, so it's worth it, I think. It definitely works. When we look at the abilities, of course, he has his basic swing. His first attack is going to be a damage reflection, so more of a defense than an attack. But in any case, it adds a shield to all allies and reflects 50% of the damage taken back to the attacker. So at level 60, 50% is pretty sizable. That's not too bad. And this, of course, is going to cover all of your allies, so every attack from your opponent is going to damage them back. And anytime you can put DPS downrange, that's not a bad thing at all. His next ability is going to be Shield Bash. This is a melee physical attack 4 at level 60, 1605 base damage, and a chance to daze, which will create a negative 58% chance to hit. And so this is going to be sort of a, I'm going to smack you, and then I'm going to try to make it very difficult for you to hit me back again. Of course, that is a chance. It is not 100% that the daze will occur, so keep that in mind, and it doesn't tell you what percentage of proc for the daze that's going to be. And the last one that we have here is the quintessential tank ability, which is a taunt. Forces enemies to target his, single attacks towards him, but puts a buff of 40% defense and starts powered. So this is something that we see with most of the tanks. Believe it or not, there are some taunts that do not start off powered. There's a couple of tanks that have that do need the energy requirement, but as far as Alexandros is concerned, when you enter into a dungeon, that should be powered up and ready to go so he can immediately start taking the brunt of the damage right off the bat. As far as Alexandros Ascension is concerned, they are a little on the heavy side. 45 Light Evos, 15 Light Evo Monarchs, 5 Water Evos, and 1 Astral Evo will get you the first Ascension for Shield Bash and the Shocking Grasp passive trait. For the second ascension, we need 45 water evos, 30 light evo monarchs, 8 mind's eye evos, and 2 diamond evos will give you the final ability for taunt. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the statistics for Alexandros and find out how he matches up against other tanks. Before we do that, let's identify 3 particular statistics that I think make a well-rounded tank. The first one is going to be the attack rating. The attack is used to calculate how much damage a particular enemy receives, and as a tank, even though his job is to absorb as much of the damage as possible, we do want him to be able to put some DPS down range, and we want that to be as high as we can get it. Additionally, since his primary function deals with taking damage, we also want his defense rating pretty high. The defense rating reduces the amount of damage inflicted by the other enemies, probably something we absolutely need in a tank, right? And the last thing that we're going to look at is the health pool. The health pool is critical because it will not only determine the longevity of the tank in any particular round, but it will also create a level of survivability so that the healer has an opportunity to come around and heal that tank and put him back up to full health so he can continue doing his job. When we compare him to other tanks, and in my case, I decided to match him up against 2 of my other tanks. One of them is going to be a Pygneus, who's a 5-star, and the other one is Phenolthoxian, who's a 4-star. Now, I only chose those 2 particular tanks because they are close in level with Alexandros, and I wanted there to be some similarity in levels and rank as far as star goes, so that the numbers are a little more accurate. But I do admit off the bat that Pygneus is obviously a beast tank, Phenolthoxian is a pure magical tank, and Alexandros is a armored magical tank. So I get that there's some differences here, but we're looking at numbers and we're trying to see how they compare to other tanks, and for the purposes of that comparison, this is going to be okay. So Alexandros' attack rating for me is 1284 at a 5-star, and when we compare that to Pygneus, his attack rating is 1464. Phenolthoxian is 1232 at a 4-star rating. So he is sort of, you could put him at the middle of the road because Phenolthoxian is only a 4-star. I gather if I had a 5-star on him, it might go up to be a little closer to Alexandros, but he's in the ballpark. But there's a definite significant difference between Alexandros and Pygneus, and therefore Pygneus is going to do more damage. When we go to the defense rating, though, here's where we see a pretty significant difference. Alexandros' defense rating is 1764 when we compare that to Pygneus at 1567 and Phenol at 1177. That's a pretty big difference. He's able to take off quite a bit of damage from the attacks that are coming at him, and that's super important. That's exactly what we would want in a tank. On the adverse side of this, we also see a health pool that probably doesn't match up to the other 2. Alexandros' HP is at 3,999 when we compare that to Pygneus at 4,728 and Phenol at 4,624. There's a pretty significant health pool difference that's there, which means even though Alexandros' defense rating is a lot higher, his health pool is a lot lower, and a couple of good critical attacks could put him in the danger zone pretty quickly and might even make it a little hard for your healer to come around and get him back up to survivability range again. So how does Alexandros rank up overall as a tank? I think he's absolutely fantastic. When you consider the fact that he's able to mitigate some of the damage from not only magical attacks, but also physical attacks, you can't ask for much more than that in a tank. Additionally, his significant defense rating makes him perfect for the job, and he's going to be able to take a beating for quite a while. The only downside I see to this, though, is that his HP pool is a little less than stellar, and I think the key to using him is going to be watching him closely and having that heal ready for the moment that you realize he's not going to make it for the next couple of rounds. I would say somewhere in the 1/3 range is probably pretty good, because if it goes any longer or you've got a really long cooldown on your heal, he's not going to be able to take it for too much longer, and he's probably going to end up dying. So keep that in mind when you bring him into these dungeons, especially if you're going to be going up against any dark units. Additionally, Alexandros comes with all the tools of the trade. His damage reflection ability provides a 50% mitigation towards not only himself, but all the party members in his group, and puts that DPS back down range. His shield bash provides him with a halfway decent attack that has the ability to mitigate even more damage by possibly dazing that target. And of course, we have the quintessential tank ability, the taunt, which in his case is ready to go the moment that you walk into the dungeon, and also provides him, at level 60, a 40% defense buff. Overall, I think Alexandros makes an excellent tank, and I think if you haven't used him yet, you should really give him a try and work him into your hero rotation, at least for static campaign dungeons, until such time as you find something better that works for you and your group composition. I hope you guys found this video informative, and I appreciate you stopping by to watch it. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing, and don't forget to like and comment. I do try to reply to everybody that takes the time to do so. Thanks again, and I will see you at the next video.